Today I am going to show you how routing works in Angular and why it is necessary in Angular. So first of all I will give some introduction here. Suppose this is a whole project and this whole project have two modules, module 1 and module 2. Okay, module 1 is app module. This is the start module or bootstrap module. So it will be activated fast whenever the application will be loaded, and app component is also bootstrapped. Okay, this is the root component and this is the root module. Okay, so previously what we are doing, I will show you here. Whenever we need two components inside the app components, we were using the selector. So these are the selectors. So selector, for example, app component. Okay, app component will be shown inside index.html. So this is a single page application. Basically Angular we are using for single page application, and that single page is index.html. Okay, index.html is the only one page, and all action or all functionality is happening inside this index.html. There is no other page. And app.component have a selector and it have a template URL. So this template URL or HTML will be shown inside the app root element. And where is the app root element? It is inside the index.html. Let's see the example from the code. So I am going to index.html. See here, app root / app root. Okay, in this here it is mentioned selector app root, and if you go to the code in the index.html, this is the element. Okay, so this HTML will be shown inside index.html. Similarly, suppose we have two other components other than the root component, which is called app component. So then we are using the selector. So selector element. So app hyphen C1, app hyphen C2, they are the selector of C1 and C2 respectively. So we will write like this. If we put this two line inside the app component.html, then it will be shown inside this app component. Basically, this component are visible to the user. Modules are not visible. Module are plain codes. So, and template URL or template, these two are visible to the user. So C1 has also template URL, C2 has also template URL, and app component has also template URL. And to show permanently C1 and C2 inside app component, we are writing the elements, selector elements here. But there is a situation arise whenever there are 100 components. Here it is two components, for example. But if there are 100 components and we are showing inside the app component at a time, then it will be heavy and the performance will be slow and the user interface will be bad, because 100 components nobody will see at a time. So we need on demand also. Sometimes we need C1, C2, then we need C3, C7 or C10. So on demand we will load inside this. Okay, for that situation we are going to introduce Angular routing. So in case of Angular routing, we don't need the selector because we are not going to show C1 and C2 permanently. Okay, so instead of selector, we will use router outlet. Okay, so let's show it pictorially here. See here, suppose we have a whole project here and there are two modules, module 1 and module 2. The app module is the root module, app component is the root component, and we can show module 2 components here also inside the app router outlet, and C1 and C2 will be shown inside the router outlet whenever we will click some links here. Okay, so let's go and show some example in the code, means in the TypeScript we will write something. Here if we will consider the application, we have 6 components. In the whole project we have 6 components. 3 components belong to module 2 and 3 belongs to module 1. So this is the module 1 component and this is the module 2 components. So this is the example of fixing the component 1 and component 2 inside the app component. But whenever we are going to have on demand loading of C1 or C2, then we will go for routing. Okay, so we need 2 components, C1 and C2. Let's create that. So for that we are going to new terminal. Okay, ng generate component, ngc, there is a space, and I will write here C1, suppose, or I can write, suppose I will write okay, no problem, C1, right here C1. So I will give the enter. Then this is already automatically created, creating the component. Okay, so component need HTML file specs. This is for testing. Okay, this is component.ts and this is the CSS. Now for this example we don't need CSS file and specs file. Okay, I am removing this. So let's go and delete. Yes. So after deleting, also from here I will remove, because I removed the CSS, no need style. So I removed this, and selector, we don't need selector in case of routing because we will use router outlet. So I am removing this, only template URL is here. Okay, so and let's see. So template URL, suppose, so I can also make it template only, not an issue. Template, then I will use some different type of quote symbol here, and I will write the HTML here. Okay, so I will write here and 1/p. Okay, so let's save it. Save. Then I will go for creating another component, that is C2, ng generate component C2, enter. And here also we are seeing the HTML specs file, TS CSS created. So I will remove what is not needed now. These two are not needed, so I am going to delete it. Then I will go to components. Yes, then I don't need this. Also I don't need this because we are using a router outlet in case of routing. So here also I will use one line. Okay, then this will be p/p, then so as it is a template, don't need that URL here because we are using that code, and that is a special type of code. It is near the tilde symbol, below the tilde symbol. I already told in some example in the previous video. So we need this. So this is component 2, and write like this, component 2, and we have component 1 here, and component 2, component 1 HTML, sorry, component 2 HTML is C2 works, C1 component HTML is C3, C2 C1 works. Okay, so we have done this thing. So another thing we have to do in the module. Okay, in the module we have already imported the router module. Okay, and this is the line. Okay, so this is the configuration we are doing in the app module.ts so that it will work. So we have mentioned that router.forRoot, and this is array. So in this array only we are mentioning for C1 right now. So path is C1, component will be C1 component. So let's run it and show new terminal ng serve o, enter. Before that, just see that in app component HTML we have put only router outlet. There is no other content here. Only one line is there, router outlet slash router outlet. So whatever link we will be click, it will be shown here. So currently till now we have not write code for any link in the app component. Only we are showing the router outlet. So without link also we can use the URL to show component 1 in the router outlet or component 2 in the router outlet. So let's go. See, there is nothing here because we have nothing here. So only router outlet will be here. So we'll go for page source. Here we have this uproot is in index, so nothing is there. So C1, so it is saying in the module.ts, it is saying that path is equal to C1 and component is equal to C1 component. So path is equal to C1 means, suppose I will write slash C1 here. I am writing slash C1. So it is showing that component 1. So what is that? It is written here, component HTML. Okay. So HTML don't need. Even I don't need HTML because I am not using template URL. I am using template. So even I can remove the HTML part from both C1 and C2. Because in both C1 and C2 component, I am using template, not template URL. So that I can write the HTML here only. Okay. So I can write here, suppose works, component 2 works. Then here I can write component 1 works. Okay. So here I have written this component 2 works and component 1 works. So whenever I am going there, it is automatically coming works is added. So if we write here C2, it is showing nothing because I have not mentioned in the module. See, I have only mentioned for path is equal to C1, not for C2. So if that's why if I am writing here C2, it is nothing coming nothing. Okay, again it is redirecting to the main page. So I will write for C2 also here. Control C, comma, Control V. So I will write here C2 and I will write here C2 also. Otherwise C1 again C1 will be shown. Okay, I saved it. So let's go there and type C2 here. C2. So C2 component 2 works, it is coming. So I have written C2 here. If I write here C1, component 1 is works, it is coming. So this path, whatever I am writing, it is basically related to this part. So after the base URL, whatever we are writing after slash, it is related to this one, C1. Suppose I will write here C1, 2, 3 and I will save it. See, C1 will not work. So it is going to the base page, it is not working. So if you write C1 to 3, see it is working. Okay. So this is the basic concept of routing. Okay. But the issue is that every time user is not going to type here C1 or C2. For that we are using a link. So that link will work same thing like this. So that I will be added in the here. So here I will write a router outlet. Sorry, no a router link. Router link equal to C1 Okay, and I'll write here go to C1, and I will give a line break here HTML. Then I will copy this. I'll write here C2, and I'll write here go to C2. Okay, so if I am writing this router link, I don't need to write C1 C2 in the URL. Okay, so the see it is automatically coming. So if I'll click here C1, it is coming C1 works. If I click here C2, then it is coming C2 works. So this is the basic concept of routing. So what we have done here, so we have created two components C1 and C2, and we have written this in the template. Then I don't need CSS also. Even I can remove this. I will delete. If I am deleting it from here, also specs file you can delete. Deleted, then component. So I route any needed because it is showing in the index.html. So I don't need CSS. Delete this. Okay, and let's save it. So I am going to so we have two components, and in the app module, in the app component.html, what I have written router link, because we don't need to type the path here. So instead of typing path here, I am just writing the code here, these two lines for C1 and C2, then a router outlet. And in the module, app module, what I am writing this much part. This much part I am writing here for this is the for configuration. So this is for configuration. So in the configuration I am writing in an array. Okay, in an array I am writing paths. Similarly, we can add hundreds of paths here. Okay, so three things we have to take care of. So this is the main part. In the route app module.ts, add this path and component to the router module using for root formula, and so it is saying that which path will be typed or linked, which path will be linked. Suppose C2 is typed here, then C2 will be shown. Okay, and C1 will be typed here, C1 will be shown. See, whenever I am changing, this is coming. So instead of another thing is, user is not going to every time type here, so it will go for a link. So a link is working. So for that link, in the app component we are using router link. So three things you have to take care of. One is in the module we have to write router module.forRoot, and there we are adding path and component. Then app component.ts, we are doing nothing here. In the HTML file we are adding the router outlet. Okay, in the root component I am adding the router outlet plus the link, means which link will be clicked and which component will be shown inside the router outlet. And we are creating the components that will be shown in the app component.html. So that's all routing.